A big hello to all you lovely people out there and welcome to your favorite show, Mic Check, presented by SportsKingdom and Brightness Media. We have the most energetic and enthusiastic Danny Morrison in the house, who played cricket for New Zealand from 1987 to 1997 and began his career opening the bowling alongside New Zealand's greatest cricketer of all time, Sir Richard Hadlee, in his test debut at the Gabba in Brisbane in December 1987. As T20 exploded onto the world stage, he commentated on the inaugural ICC World T20 in South Africa in 2007, worked on the ICC Men's World Cup and have been involved in many of the global T20 franchises leagues around the world. Welcome, Danny, and it's fantastic to have you on Mic Check.
Deep, lovely to see you, dear fellow. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Well, just getting ready to rock and roll with the T10. If it's not T20, there's so much global white ball cricket, isn't it? The franchise stuff. The Big Bash has been going on for a while. When you think about the IPL having to come to this part of the world, I'm in the UAE again, back in Abu Dhabi for this T10. So yeah, looking forward to it immensely.
Well, and I must tell you, 2021 has begun with a big bang, and lots of excitement and lots of cricket that is happening around the world.
Well, there is, and I just think, look, it seems to be the new normal, doesn't it? Everyone's been going about it. I think at the moment we're just going to have to rock and roll with it and see what transpires with the fluidity. It's just like, where are we going? Are we trying to program for this? And then, of course, COVID, the pandemic, is taking stock, and so in a way, it's the old, inverted commas, the new normal.
But it's also good to see a lot of players and a lot of everyone is taking care of themselves. They're sanitizing themselves time and again. So it's a good thing to see, and all we can say is stay healthy, stay safe. So when
the bio bubble, you can't get around that. You've just got to be hankered down. I think you should say tough mentally for the players, and even for us, production, TV, the whole crew.
True.
You really are confined to your hotel. Then you go to the stadium and back. You can't go out and do the normal things that some of the other countries are doing still.
Well, so when I was told that you're supposed to interview Danny Morrison, the Danny Morrison. So suddenly this word started popping out in my head, like, he's got a major piece of that, all these things. So let's talk about your transition from, being a cricket player to commentary box. How was it?
Well, I suppose you peel it right back for me, Deep, is that I look at it now and going from the playing to the commentary side of things. I was fortunate that my mother, from her thespian background with arts and the drama side of things, that I was exposed as a youngster, around 11 and 12 years of age, going to see mum doing a drama diploma for a start at the Auckland University, but also just hanging out with those types, the thespians, and going to live theatre productions. My mother also managed a modern dance company called Limbs. So yeah, seeing all those interesting people, you got exposed to that. And so then a little bit of pantomime myself, on a Saturday morning, instead of playing, sport so much, I was between rugby and cricket, hadn't quite, encapsulated me and taken off as an 11-year-old. So in a way, you think people, you started cricket a bit later because of, rugby and other winter codes that you played tended to be first. So looking back at it, I'm very privileged in a way, Deep, that my mother was in that sort of realm. And so the theatrics with it, when you think about that with, the whole Bollywood film industry, particularly in the subcontinent, where you've got a lot of villains and a lot of, the hero and the heroine and the whole thing, and it's pretty, intense. T20s and now T10s got fairly intense. So in a way, that whole other persona of me coming out, because I was a fast bowler and it's quite explosive, it sort of, I've sort of engaged in that, and it sort of suits me and sort of my sort of, if you like, in hashtag, bit of a crazy persona and having fun with it. So my belief around a lot of the commentary, Deep, You have to be there because you love it and you want to be doing it, and it's got to be fun. And you've got, even in Test cricket, I mean, you just slow down and change gears, of course, to what the situation requires, or that style, and just being a little bit more mellow. Absolutely. And we'll talk more about that. But I mean, cricket for me has been such a big part of my life.
Well, put a stamp on it, because you're the best.
We have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So was it difficult in the start when you because it's a shift that you decided eventually after your cricketing career that you need to now get to the commentary box. So was it really difficult, or you were up there?
I suppose when I look at, the other thing was a guy called Billy Birmingham in Australia called the 12th Man, and he imitated and took off the Channel 9 commentators, Richie Benaud, Bill Lawry, Tony Greig, Ian Chappell, all of them, and he could mimic them and impersonate them. So he helped a lot, I think, of this generation really moving forward towards the end of the 20th century. He put out a lot of these DVDs, tapes, CDs, the whole thing. And so for a lot of us could relate to that. And it was again, part of it, the theatre, if you like. And for me, Deep, I think, with my background of, as I say, just touching on there with my mother's history, Martin Crowe wanted me to do a magazine show called Cricket Company. Right. And peeling it right back to those days in the late 90s. And the likes of a lot of guys, Gav Scavell was a great influence too, about being positive and being out there for your audience to be entertained. And that's what it's about. And so for me, like all of us, really struggled at the start because you didn't project enough. You were questioning your own self. Of course you are, because it's a bit like a young player greeting new people and having to work with a new environment. So again, I think you look back on it, and we're all got to start somewhere, whether it's your choice of work or where your workplace is, or whether it's in a sporting realm or a theatrical realm, whatever. So for me, yeah, definitely I look back on it, wasn't confident enough and more positive enough about things. And that took time. And I think like anything, Deep, it takes time to develop and see where you're going with it, or if you're good enough, and if you want to keep doing something that you're doing, whatever realm that is.
Well, whenever you're in front of camera, you have your original way. And that's what even Gavin says a lot, that, be yourself, own the moment. And when you're there, you got your own style. So did that also, somewhere down the line, that theoretical background is the reason for it?
Yeah, I think so. And I also think, when I was around people early on, like Tony Greig, got to be in the same combox and around him, and such a larger than life character. I mean, I really would say, like Greggy, he was a pioneer, because you had the Packer cricket revolution in the late 70s, the pajama game, the coloured clothing, white ball lights, all of that stuff. He was around that. And so you could see the development of that, and how exuberant he was, and, really up for it. And also I think for Greggy, he really did embrace the subcontinent and could see what a powerhouse the subcontinent were going to become in terms of cricket. And look what's happened and transpired. Clearly, the IPL is the biggest T20 franchise tournament on the planet. The sheer numbers, the passion that's behind all of the four subcontinent, you call it like the big four, the Fab Four, that are the subcontinent test playing sides, and have their own franchise T20s, embrace it there. But I think also we all love Test cricket, Deep, and there's a place for all the different genres, if you like, the different, as I talk about different gears, Test cricket, 50 over cricket, 2020 cricket, and now, oh, heaven to Betsy's, we've got T10, cut in half again. We're saying T20 on steroids, cutting loose and going crazy. All of that, and so I think there is a place for it, because the world's changing. The entertainment industry of cricket is changing clearly, and your audience is young, and they're not totally cricket savvy in terms of being brought up with Test cricket, seeing a lot of 50 over stuff. People haven't got time. They're on these things all. The gadget world that is now the 21st century is that you're looking at your sport differently. Whether it's on a smaller iPhone, Android phone, whatever, laptop, tablet, you're getting your sports fix or watching a movie, sitting on a train going to work. They don't have to tell you to. I mean, you think about all the people in the subcontinent that can be sitting on a train or a bus or whatever, on public transport, going into there and seeing their country, their heroes on a tablet or on a phone, watching the sport.
Well, of course, rightly, as you said, the formats have changed now. Where we used to see test matches, from there we also had one day 50 overs matches, but now T20 and T10, of course, you have to be on your toes and the energy should be high. But let's talk a little bit about test cricket, because because a lot of viewers are watching right now who are also aspiring to be a commentator one day. So especially in test cricket, when you have to talk for 5 days and you have to keep engaging, and the momentum not necessarily is always very fast.
No.
So how do you handle that situation?
Well, the great thing is, yes, we're out front and we're talking, or in front of camera or on the microphone, but really the other great thing about this, Deep, is that you've also got a production team behind you, and that's your producer, your statistician, your director who's calling all the shots that you see at home. But those people are paramount, that make us in front of camera look good and sound good, because they're feeding you with information, they're feeding you with stats, and it's not all just about stats. Of course, you're not regurgitating numbers and stuff all the time, but I think the great thing about commentary is that majority of us have been former players now. I mean, Harsha Bogle, an exception of a broadcaster that didn't play at the highest level, but that's not to say there's not a place for that. What I am saying is that you've got to be a good storyteller. Now, Harsha clearly is. And those guys that are more broadcasters that paint the picture are good storytellers. So for us as ex-players, you'll hear us go on about stories, or, we'll bring in an anecdote of what happened there. And you'll hear like the guys over the years have to do that. And then the beauty of the modern era, Deep, is that you can run that in. For instance, like down in Australia, Adam Gilchrist might be on raving to Mark Ward, and they bring up one of his great slip catches against a certain right-hander that's now in the game at the moment. It might be Virat Kohli batting, and they're just saying, we'd try and bolt him like this, maybe set him up for this sort of bowler's on now. It's day 4 of the pitch. Nathan Lyon's on. How can we set it up and talk about it when there perhaps is not much happening in the game of the test match, because it's a slower gear? So all of that's really crucial. The behind-the-scene people are very, very important. They are, as I say, they're paramount to have the whole of the television brought to the viewer at home.
Well, let's also talk about your mentors and, any kind of advice that you always, keep it in your mind, and, then you go out there in the field.
Yeah, and then there are a few late greats, right? I've mentioned the late great Tony Greig as a pioneer. Another smooth guy was Robin Jackman, who sadly passed away recently on Christmas Day. When I look at those two, Marty Crowe, in terms of, giving you some advice about, look, let's keep it simple, but also bring your energy to the table and what you're about as an entertainer. And I think those guys in my head there are often there in that they honestly just keep it simple. They really do. And yes, you've got your own style and your own vernacular, that for sure. But I think with those guys keeping it simple, also television's such a different medium to radio. So you've got to be careful that you're not stating the obvious. And sometimes you've got to. We all do that. It just bounces along like that. But you've got to bring something interesting to it. And so that the viewer who's maybe not that cricket savvy, you're educating them a little bit, and also wanting to keep them entertained. And Tony Greig was big on that. And he really was on about keeping even like some of the housewives there giggling at home. Kids are running right out the back, but they might have the TV on in the background and come to it. And, just to keep them a bit interested with some stories or some funny anecdotes. All of those things they paint the picture, and they're important, given that it's test cricket and it's a little bit slower.
Well, a lot of viewers are right now joined us, and the one thing that they want to know, and this also came from a lot of people before the interview, what is the secret of that energy that you get on the ground, on the field?
I think the real advantage I have, Deep, is that I played the game at the highest level. And so I know what it's like being in front of those big crowds in the subcontinent, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, working in Bangladesh. The passion is there. So in a way, I would say, because I'm so involved in white ball cricket of T20, 50 overs or T10, in a way, there's no excuse not to be up, because for a start, you love it to bits and pieces. One of my hashtag, love you to bits and pieces, is that the game is there and it's only a short time, and you're there to entertain, and people want to watch the game and they want to be entertained. And whether that's clearly the guys out in the middle or the women playing the game out in the centre on TV, you're there to add some of that colour to it. And so I think, particularly if you're sidelined and being interviewed, you owe it to the game, because I think, some people can get carried away and think, oh, the game owes me this or they should we do this. And you see some big names, but no, really, the game, no one owes. No one owns the game. The game is there because you love it. And so for me, the love of the game is the ultimate. And so I think for people asking about my energy, is that you have to be up. And at times, of course, we're all, with different jobs. You go and see the doctor, he might be down, he doesn't want to really see you, and you're sick and crook, and he's not feeling great, but at the same time, he or she's got to get through. And you've got to find a way. And I think, particularly for us in the entertainment industry, you owe it to your viewers to be, when you're on, you're on. It's a bit like they're going about, focusing whether you're playing golf, tennis, cricket, batting, bowling, whatever, that you have a switch on and switch off. And so between commentary stints, you've got to be able to take that little bit of downtime, go and have a cup of tea, coffee, whatever it is, water, get revved up, you've had your time there, then you come back and go. So I just don't think that there's no excuse for us, because we come and go. It's not like, tell you what is challenging, there's a laugh here, is different, the angle of the Big Bash. Now they've got those three on, and they only have those three, and they do the whole game. Very interesting. So you've got a guy calling, he or she's calling the game, and you've got the two experts alongside, and they do the whole lot. Interesting that Australia have gone that way. I find that fascinating, that to change it up, to have different voices. They figure it's only T20 and you can get on with it and go down to sidelines and have other people. Just people doing it differently. But my word, in terms of being up for that, I think in a way, and this is an opinion, has it been critical? Maybe, but I also see it that on channel, down in Australia, the Big Bash, it's not the same, isn't it? When you think about India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, now Sri Lanka have got a T20 back, Caribbean Premier League, massively different. It's about the fan base and the entertainment from my perspective. True. And so when I see that, it's very challenging for the Aussies doing that when there's only three on. And I was just saying that to Lisa Staleka, who's here on the team. Very difficult when you've got to be in a studio situation because of COVID and all of that. And there is only the three of you, where you're not changing the voice up, not changing the character up. So I just think, that's a production choice, isn't it? But I like the way when you've got 5 or 6 commentators, and whether it's 2 on or 3 on, whatever, and you rotate and move, because people bring a different dynamic. And I think that, in a way, as particularly, I'm talking white ball cricket, that you want to have people with a different opinion and a different voice and a different view, and clearly looking at this ugly old bald head, a different look, So I like the chopping and the changing from a production and an energy. And I think for me, that keeps my energy up.
Well, our viewers are loving this, and they always want to hear the most energetic and enthusiastic, the Danny Morrison. And just tell me, and now with your permission, I am going to reveal a lot of secrets. And one of the secrets that we came to know, what is that trick with the eye that you do?
The eye? Well, it's funny. I mean, look, something like the old pirate eye. But for me, and was it Dinzompa, was a villain in the Bollywood movies? He goes, "Oh, look here, Danny, you'll be Danny Dinzompa." But well, just the eye thing for me was just, again, more expression, and particularly if you're on camera, and sometimes the Comcam. But I really loved the early days of the IPL, where you could have a bit of fun sideline, get dressed up, and put on costumes and have fun with your other co-hosts or presenters, and do that. So that worked well for me. I mean, it's gone, different production, different TV channel, a little bit more cricket centric, a little bit more cricket serious. That's fine too. But I just also think there's, different characters, different personalities, different styles. That's all it is, Deep. And so for me, not everyone's going to like my a little bit too over the top, perhaps energy and ripping it up and going, oh, he's gone crazy again. He's fatted this and it's gone miles. Well, that's who I am because I get up for it. I love it. I suppose making comparisons like Channel 9, the great Bill Lawry, who, when you look at him, very straight-laced sort of guy chatting, loved pigeons, the whole thing, pretty mellow, was into pigeon racing, all that sort of thing. Again, that 12th Man has a great bit of fun about that.
Superb. But
he was up. Now, Bill used to get up a lot. He'd be out of his chair with his microphone and, giving it plenty. And, oh, look at this. What a great stroke, Michael Slater. He's unbelievable. And he'd get right into it. And so, I look at those guys, particularly Bill Lawry and Tony Greig, who'd really got up. And then you had the doyen. You had Richie Benaud, who was just very understated. Yes, he'll stop that. No, he won't. And that was it, and then the picture would carry on, and, what was going on the telly. But he'd just be beautifully, and that delivery and that style and that timing, So again, that suited for me with that energy, timing. You learn to have little pauses and when you should go a bit more and pull back or wait. And for me, with another one, and like a guy's just got hold of it and fatted it, and it's off, and I'm like, and boom. And it's, it's either gone for and he's gone. He's been caught. He's on the boundary. So you got to wait. And so that's just where I throw my vernacular in. It's just different.
Well, when you're working with so many veterans, legends, let them call that as well. But when you're working with all these lovely people, you also got to travel a lot, and you've been to various places, and especially you're also fond of street food as well. So you try different cuisines, you try different places.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Oh, lovely. And Gaurav Kapoor had that show, didn't he? And wonderful show. And so he interviewed a lot of us, and it was out and about, or it was being interviewed in a hotel over some food. And I think when you look at the subcontinent, food is just massive. And I think, Corley, look, the old mouth, it all starts there, doesn't it? It's got to enter your cake hole, shove it in the cake hole. Is that I do. I really love subcontinent cooking. And again, they're all, as you say, Indian food, different, subtly different from Bangladesh food. Again, Sri Lankan can be a lot more spicy. And then Pakistan, again, quite different, quite meat orientated. So I love it all, particularly when I'm in the subcontinent, even here, because you've got subcontinent chefs, a lot of guys from Nepal as well here, and a few boys from Kerala. Love a masala dosa for me, or just a plain dosa, and so I've just had that for a late breakfast even today.
Yeah.
So for me, being a little gluten intolerant too, you see the old world and wheat and processed food and just, smashing yourself in the 80s and 90s and not understanding or being educated enough about food and what we're eating, you took it for granted. So now, as a little bit of a gluten intolerant sufferer, masala, rice flour, all of that sort of beautiful thing, doing that and having different options, having samba and a little bit spicy, not too spicy, but certainly I love all the different cuisines of the subcontinent. I even find, I can't eat bread so much anymore, but like when I'm a bit crook or something in Bangladesh, and because it's been manufactured slowly in the old style, and the wheat's probably different, and then you can get different grains of what have you. Having the naan bread, when you're just, way down in Chittagong, Chittagong, it's called now, I'll be naughty. So, I'll be down deep south of Bangladesh, and I might, be a bit loose, have the runs, so then I can just have my beautiful naan bread that doesn't affect me. It's fascinating that all the processed stuff we get in the West doesn't work for me in my stomach.
Next time when you come to Mumbai, I'll make you taste vada pav and misal pav. Those are the delicacies of Maharashtra.
Yeah, and I do, and I love it. And so, and I have some other good friends who, let's give them a plug. Love Your seafood chain that's there in Mumbai. So his family have had it for, I think his grandfather opened it and what have you. But see, I love going to those, restaurants, hanging out, going to Ratnagiri, going to Chimbor, hanging out there, eating seafood out there, giggling, just again, getting out of hotels. But now, frustrating with COVID and the pandemic, can't get out and about, can we? So just blessed to have a lot of unique, different cuisines going on in good hotels.
Well, I'm sure I'm also hungry a lot now, but we'll continue with the interview now.
Salivating.
So a lot of young aspiring commentators or presenters or reporters who want to make career into this field, they always see the green side of it. But
Yes.
tell us, what is the difficult or the hardest part of commentary?
Well, I think you learn to find your voice, and parts of that is definitely breathing and training that. And so before, some of the time, I'll be wandering around my hotel room and just getting your voice ready. You hear singers and go la 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 la. They'll be doing all the different voice projection and training stuff. Not so much for us, but I'll be either brush my teeth, shave that beautiful bald head, and just be thinking about, great barber, you too, is that you'll be thinking about who you got. Bravo, here he is again today. What has he got for us? The super West Indian. Geez, he's got it all. And so I'll just practice those sort of things up, and then just being a little bit down. Oh, look at the hands on it. Beautiful piece of timing. And so again, people won't see that from behind the scenes, is that you'll have that. And the other side of it, Deep, is that it does consume you. You're thinking about it all the time. The great Ian Bishop, he watches a lot of cricket all the time. Like, he's got all the gadgets, he's got all the memory sticks, and just has them all around the globe that he can plug in and have stuff streaming. And in fact, the IPL, we hung out in his room a bit. He had all the gadgets and plugged into the big TV because he's all over it. He loves it, and he watches so much of it. So what I would say for whoever's the sport they're in, it might be hockey, it might be tennis, in terms of what's the kabaddi over in India there, the whole, the game of wrestling and rock and rolling. So whatever you choose, I think you've got to love it. Clearly, you've got to love that sport or presenting whatever it is, that you really got to like doing that. And there is stuff from behind the scenes that you've got to do and learn, timings of that. And again, different producers and different people that you run into over time takes time. So in terms of the course that you deeply on about here with Kingsdown and the whole thing of that with Brightness Media, you try to then, for a few of us, help and give advice and in a way short circuit that. So then there's a couple of little tools that we can pass on and help with. But at the end of the day, one of the big things for me is about presenting and being out there. You got a good breathing, good breath, smiling. You'll always have producers or directors. Okay, you're going to come to you in 5, 4, smiling, Danny. You give you a little rev up in your ear because here you are presenting to your audience, and they want to see some energy. They want to see you be positive. You want to be happy, because at the end of the day, why are we watching a movie or television or whatever it is, particularly entertainment? Is because you want to be entertained. You want to forget about all the crap that's going on either in your life or around you, with the pandemic, obviously, but just to escape stuff. So in a way, it's lovely to be able to do that and bring that to you, and so that you're smiling and happy. And how often have you seen someone, if they're really good at what they do on television, and they're smiling and laughing and making you laugh for an interview, and then you often see yourself at home laughing. You'll be sitting on the couch laughing with them because they're giving either someone stick or however they're conducting the interview, or you're feeling entertained, whether it's calling cricket, soccer, kabaddi, whatever, that you want to feel like you can switch off all the dramas in your life and have some fun going on in front of you. So I think as a presenter and those passing on that knowledge, you really need to be able to be up. There's no excuse. And this is part of your role and your job description for those who are being entertained at home.
Well, that's exactly. I mean, let's talk a little more about this, because when you're saying that, and you have to entertain, you have to be an entertainer so that, the crowd is with you, they're listening to you, they're enjoying it. But at the same time, there is, and not many people know it, in an international setup, when you have those headphones on your ears, there are a lot of cues given by your director and your producer. So when all that noise is going on in your background, how do you focus and still continue with your presentation?
Yeah, it's fascinating because Deep, some like it quite loud in their ear. So if we've got an earpiece in and you, as you say, you're listening to the director or the producer comes through with some information, or they often are sitting behind your producer and giving you information, just a quick chat. There's real skill in terms of producers too that deliver it and how that has been passed on with that information, timing of that. But also it's a skill too. You have to get used to that. And you'll see players who come up as guests on commentary and they'll have a player come into the commentary. And then they often don't have to have the earpiece in there. But those that are starting and want to perhaps think about doing some commentary, they go, oh, yes, oh, there's all that going on. They'll be hearing the director, camera 3, back to 2.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go silent and then back to 1, and it's clicking up, and then they'll be chatting in your ear and all this. Okay, we'll roll it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's VT, what have you got for me? Okay, roll green wipe, and that replay will come up and what have you. So there is that, and it really is a skill to learn, to have one of your ears there. Sometimes, you say you got the cans on, but often you take one off and be able to eyeball and chat to your colleague that's alongside there. So you are multitasking of that, but it does, like anything, it takes a bit to get used to, no doubt about it. And the thing of looking at your monitor, looking at it live outside, but certainly then looking at your monitor a lot of the time, because that's what people are seeing at home, and that's what you're talking about and do in a way.
Just when we're talking about this, any kind of tips that you would love to give to our, aspiring commentators? How do you handle such situations, and how do you ignore what is going on, only take what is important for you? Like when a director is telling you that, hey, look, next I'm going to play the stats. So, talk about that.
Yeah,
These are important cues that director gives you.
Yeah, and I think the other great thing about it, it's a bit like watching someone running in it, like Wazim Akram running in at you, he's going to try and knock your head off, is that you have to be very focused. And so, again, concentrating, focused at what you're doing, as well as a bit of multitasking because there's something going on and someone will be talking to you. That's what I said before too, that it takes a bit of time, like anything of that, to learn and feel savvy with that. That's why I think in terms of the platform that you gentlemen are coming up with, in terms of like a coaching scenario, is that those that are aspiring to want to do some commentary or presenting, then they'll be able to watch and be put in a simulation there. They can simulate what is going on in front of them because they're getting that and listening and having to do all that. And so that's only really is starting to come about now, about having these platforms to learn from, because we were thrown in the deep end a little bit, and that's why it took time to learn and get used to that in the studio and this and the stuff going on in your ear. And it does take time. And you'll notice if you watch people over the years how they've got much, much better at presenting or commentating or whatever, because they've got used to that in their ear. They've got used to a producer talking to them and a director saying, we need to go and do this, or we're going to go and throw to an ad break. So you've got all of these little things that are going on that do take time to learn to juggle all of that going on.
And that's exactly is the right time, where SportsKingdom and Brightness Media, has come up with this cricket commentary, punditry, and reporting, course. So with the beautiful panel that we have, one of them is the Danny Morrison that we are talking to, but we also have Gavin Scuell and Gautam Bhimani. So how is the experience, now coaching as well? Because it's
because when I look at that
experience.
I've spent a lot of time with Gautam Bhimani over the years, certainly when it was ESPN Star way back in the day, based out of Singapore. So in terms of those tournaments and working with GB,
recently for Caribbean Premier League also, I guess.
Yeah. So we still see and catch up with each other a lot. And that's the beauty of trying, you guys putting this together with Gavin as well, because Gavin's done a lot of directing in the last 20 years or so, and producing, and he started out as a VT director. So you look at people with Gavin, and particularly Gavin and Gautam's experience as real all-rounders that can bring that to the table. And so, and getting on board with them, it should be a lot of fun and interesting to engage in this sort of platform like that, coaching with youngsters or young men or women who want to get more into this line of work.
And finally, what would be your advice to all the budding commentators and presenters out there who are listening to you? What will be your one important, useful tip for their career?
I think passion. And I've said this before, and I'll continue to say, you have to have a passion for what you want to do. And you've got to really embrace and like what you do. Now, whether that in terms of sports presenting or a different type of show, presenting magazine shows or whatever it is, you've got to like and really want to do it. The great thing about that when it's live, and there's always a certain amount of edge about it. And I think, you know, coming from a sporting background where you're on a stage doing your thing, it can be nerve-wracking. Of course, it's nerve-wracking. But then again, doing live commentary is a bit, you know, you've got to be, and that's why I think a lot of us players that go into commentaries, particularly of the game that you play and love and are so passionate about, is part of that, because it's live and you're calling it live and there's energy and you're so close to it, and yet you're still involved with it like that. So my big underwriting advice there, Deep, is about passion. There's no doubt. You've got to be 100% keen on doing this and passionate about it, to work at it and really want to have it give it a fair crack and do it.
Well, rightly said there. Passion is one important thing that you need to have, because then sky is the limit. Well, Danny,
Yeah,
I don't, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta love it. You have to love it. You have to love what you do, or particularly this industry, because it's tough.
Now, I know, and you know, the viewers also don't want to leave you so easily. So a couple of examples, if you can share about voice modulation, and in your style, you do it the best. So let's have some fun time.
Right. Because, yeah, again, like the genre, like even with Test cricket. Hello, everyone. Welcome into day 3. Really looking forward to this one. Day 3, as we know, is sort of moving day. And, you know, India, they're 3 down now for 219. They're looking to try and push on here. Looking forward to it immensely. Umpires are going out there. So I mentioned that, boom, they're coming out there. So you get out there and then you're setting the scene. And so they're okay. So first ball up, we've got Glenn McGrath running away from us now. And, oh, beautifully bowled first ball. He's knocked him over. What a cracker. So from setting the scene to it's the start of the test match, all of that. So you've got to be able to sort of pick your moments when it goes there. Or another one is, oh, he's looking beautiful this morning. Virat Kohli. The law unto himself when he does get going. And look, oh, all along the carpet, check the hands out and the timing with this one. So that's more test match genre, whereas same thing. Here's Captain Kohli. They're riding on him here, RCB. They need him to go all the way. He's on 70, but they still need another 45 to win here to the RCB. Oh, it's gone over cover. Talk about timing. Talk about hands. This guy is the king. So again, same thing, talk about test cricket as opposed to the big high octane end of T20. Same shot, gone through cover, great hands, all that, but just described a bit differently and a bit different with passion. So there are those different times when you're up and down a little bit. People call them like light and grey, the different shades about where you get to. And I know a lot of people just think, oh, Morrison, he's just so boom. But there are times when you have to be, you know, giving an example, you know, talking a bit more in technical detail. Like I might be on with Ian Bishop, which I have, Ian Bishop and Lisa Stalaker recently with that. And then we might make a point. I go, well, Bish, I've got some great intel for you here. Yeah. Trent Boult, not a big fan of trying to bowl Yorkers. And he said how difficult it is to bowl Yorkers anyway with a new white ball, start of a T20 innings. And so they prefer sometimes if he bowls one up front, then he might save himself, depending on the pitch conditions, Bish, then to come back a little later. Then, Bish, he can then try and get it in the hole. So from there, moving just a nice conversation level to then bring it up, to then lift it a bit because of what he's trying to execute, Trent Boult, that Yorker, and then you can get a bit amped about it. So there is just, again, I think in terms of style and, you know, really projecting and the timing of that. And then sometimes, as I mentioned, the great Richie Benaud, for a lot of us who grew up with, you know, clearly in terms of some of your viewers, I'm a bit older than, and remember his style of where he would be just a bit, the thing would just be coasting along beautifully. And then he'd just, oh, can he get this? No, he can't. And so his style was a lot more low key because 2020 he wasn't really brought up with 2020. 50 overs, there's a little bit about that. And at times, Benno got up a little bit. Oh, Dennis Lilly, what a character, what a bowler. But he wouldn't even be like that loud. You see what I'm saying? So the game's evolved and the game has changed. And so is the style, I think, of the projection of it, how you come across with that. I mean, look at Ravi Shastri. I mean, he was the voice before he's been back coaching, how strong a character he was and his voice getting up and doing that. You know, Laxman Shivaramakrishnan, another good, strong voice, totally there happening. And then you got Sanjay Mandraker, who's a lot more of a quieter individual who does get up. Sure, he has to get up at times with T20, but you notice the style of them when they're very much more on a bit more of an even keel and talking about Test cricket or 50 overs, and then they rev up when you need to. So there is that skill set of knowing when to lift and how much to say and how less to say. There's that great saying, Deep, that, and it is, and it still holds true, but we get so excited. Less is more. Less is more. So it depends if, you know, someone's calling the game as opposed to the other guy next to you, and it might be me and Lisa, and I'll be calling it, and I'll say something, Coley now, looking at another half century. He's on 49 from 42. Here we go. Oh, there we go. It's 4 more. Talk about a 50 and a half, and then I'll leave it. And I've left it, and the crowd's revving, and then Lisa will come in and go, my goodness, is there nothing this man cannot do? And she'll just describe in the narrative, God, his hands today look so good. And you can just see he's so much more confident today on this pitch. And she'll wax lyrical and give the whole description about what she feels about it. So again, you're short and punchy, and then your co-colleague then delivers more and gets into that. So again, you complement each other and have fun with it, but you're sort of also knowing what works and what's quite good to listen to. As I say, that less is more. Yeah. Oh, this one's got an air hostess. Excuse me. This one's got an air hostess on it. It's gone all the way. And then that's it. And I'll leave it. And then Lisa will come in and describe, boom, boom, boom. Again, use the hands, come down the track with the dancing shoes on, hit it right where he wanted to, over extra, all of that. So there is that side of things when you get to know and learn.
Well, listening to you, it's just like I want to listen to you forever, forever, forever. And I already have that extra bit of adrenaline running in my body now. Well, take a bow, Danny Morrison. It was wonderful talking to you, sir.
Good to talk to you.
It's always a pleasure. And thank you so much to be here on Mic Check. I'm sure, you know, all those little details that you've shared with us and the viewers and the aspiring, you know, commentators, presenters is going to help a lot in their career as well. We will love to see you again and again on Mic Check. Till then, it's me, Deepeshh Sule, signing off. We'll have another expert, another day. But right now, stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you so much. And thank you, Danny Morrison.
Stay cool till after school, Deep.